Courtside of the virtual hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast. This is episode number 449. I am Andrew in our forum, and Andrew NLSC on Twitter. With me as always is my co-host Derek. He is DP3 in our forum, and DP384 on Twitter. Derek, good to be talking with you as always. How's it going?
I'm doing well. However, before we get into NBA 2K23 updates, revisiting NBA Live 99, and recent retro pickups, we wanted to make a quick statement related to a situation affecting our modding community. We were made aware of a situation related to modders' work being removed from the NLSC and other media sharing services like Mediafire, Mega, Google Drive, and even YouTube. And we wanted to let you know that we are monitoring the situation closely, and that we love our community and will continue to push forward. As far as content goes, the NLSC will continue to produce articles, the top 10, gameplay videos, and, support appropriate modding practices. So I wanted to get that out of the way first, Andrew, to kind of kick off the show.
And you're right. We did want to address that and let everyone know that we're on top of the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. We are, like I stated, monitoring it closely. And, if there's anybody that wants to reach out to us with questions or concerns or anything like that, please don't hesitate.
Indeed. But as you mentioned, Derek, new patch out for NBA 2K23 this week. All platforms. This is version 2.0. It's actually the first patch we have notes for, so this is the first proper update in a way. That's not a hot fix. It's an update for Season 2 in my team and my career, but obviously a lot of likeness updates as well, including putting Bill Russell's number 6 on the jerseys, on the courts, etc., player likeness updates, but also a lot of other fixes, technical gameplay adjustments, and whatnot. And I played a bit of 2K23 with Valor the other night, and we went to the rec, so that wasn't... you're never going to have the best time there. We had a couple of decent games, but it doesn't appear that they have made any damaging changes to the gameplay. It seems that anything has either left it in the state it was in or improved it. You might have some different thoughts on that, Derek. But yeah, we do have the patch notes in front of us, so yeah, we thought we'd talk about that this week, being the big development in 2K23.
Yeah, I played a couple games in my team on Domination, and my brother and I have played a couple games as well of my NBA with Legends and whatnot, and so a few games actually after the patch, and we don't notice any difference really with the gameplay. Steals feel the same for us, so does shot blocking. Defense in general feels the same. Offensively, I'm not noticing really any difference other than the fact that I'm seeing less, as what they call like green releases, less swishes and more, it seems like buries, like the ball is either draining or burying in, as opposed to, being a straight swish. So I don't know if they slightly modified shooting maybe, and allowed for either less greens or more whites to go in, because the complaint that whites weren't going in enough and whatnot. So, I'm not 100% sure, but the gameplay basically feels the same other than that, which is good.
It's not a bad thing, no. We want that consistency for the most part, and a lot of us have felt that this is the best game out of the box, or I know that's kind of an antiquated way of putting it in the digital age, but at launch, we felt that the game is the best it's been in a long time, as far as having to make slider adjustments or whatnot. I'm just going down the gameplay notes here, and they do mention that air balls will no longer occur when shot timing is slightly early, slightly late, or better. So basically, there won't be air balls on shots that should be pretty good attempts, which I think is the right move. They do say that shot timing will now work correctly for hook shots when playing online games. That was a problem there. Frequency of contact dunks on lower difficulty levels have been increased. And to your point, made shots will now have more ball rim physics interaction variation than always swishing. So they have taken.
So there you go. See, and I didn't
see
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was looking at the notes, I didn't see that. So I did notice that when we were playing. We were actually both commenting on it because it was happening a lot more. So that was needed. I think it felt like it was swish or bust.
Yes.
Before the patch.
And here's a good one. CPU players no longer use layup timing as they were unrealistically proficient with it. And I think that's a good move too. If you give the CPU input, they can make that pixel perfect or whatever input. So you've got to be careful with that. I think traditionally they've always used real field goal percentage on CPU shooting. In recent years, they've experimented with timing as well. But again, the CPU can just give itself green after green if it desires. So, no, I think that's a good move. And I haven't really noticed much of a difference there playing against the CPU, but I still like the sound of that anyway. I'm sure I'll notice a difference as I go on and the CPU isn't making as many cheesy layups, perhaps.
Yeah, I think the computer is a little bit too easy, to be honest with you, as far as like how often they miss when you can test them. And I don't know if you noticed that, but it feels like any time that you have a hand up on the CPU, it's a miss. Like you can count on it, even on Hall of Fame. It feels like they just will miss every single contested shot. So if you're good at jumping out at the computer and using the right stick defense properly, not like just jumping out at the shooter, but actually like putting your hand up to do like a contest.
Taking away the airspace, yeah.
Yeah, take away the airspace. It's like a guaranteed miss by the computer. And I think that's unfortunate because I remember back to like NBA 2K16, 2K15 and whatnot, that, when you did get out and you contested, if you were slightly late, you could get burned from that, depending on it, like if it was a really good shooter. Or if you did a full contest, every now and then they could make one, like the real pros do.
Absolutely.
And whatnot. So I just think it's a little bit too easy to make the computer miss.
Mentions they've fixed favorite plays not showing up in many modes on the fly coaching. There's also a bug fix supposedly with the animations being unequipped in My Career. Unfortunately, Valor and I, Leo, we were playing the rec the other night, as I said, and we did notice that our animations still seem to be being unequipped. The patch notes did call it a rare bug, and I must say, no, that's not a rare bug. That is a very reliable bug. In fact, it will reliably happen each and every time. So I will double check that again. There might have been an update, a hotfix come through in one of those in-game updates that has resolved that. I will double check, but yeah, that was a problem. But it's a pretty comprehensive patch. It's the first really big patch, which I suppose is why it actually has notes as opposed to just Twitter notes. But I do wish in general, Derek, that they were a bit more open about some of the changes. We talked about that last year, and we tended to get a fair amount of patch notes, at least for a while. But the first few patches here for 2K23, they just either didn't give us any details at all, or there were very scant details on Twitter. And you just got to be open about this stuff. And even if you say, "Oh, there's no gameplay fixes, no gameplay changes in the update," still say what it is and not just what it isn't.
I just like the fact that, and I agree, transparency is incredibly important, and they've obviously been more transparent in the past. It's only been the last few years that it's been like this. But I just like the fact that the gameplay so far, they haven't messed with it too much, right? That you're still getting basically the same out-of-the-box experience on the sticks. So you're not like caught by surprise by updates done in the background or with notes that are unclear, and you're like, this game just isn't as fun anymore, right?
Exactly.
Like, we're not at that point. So I really hope Mike Wong sticks to what he said, right before the game released, that one of his goals was to patch this game very little and keep the gameplay as close to release as he could.
And that's how it should be, ideally. I mean, if there are major problems at launch and even after the first patch, certainly continue to try and resolve them. We've seen what happens when games in the past get a patch or two and it leaves them in a worse state. You feel like we needed one less patch or one more patch to either not cause those problems or to fix them, as the case may be. But I think they've done a great job this year. It's been their goal the last few years, they've mentioned, trying not to adjust the gameplay too much. They came out really strong with 2K23, as we've said on multiple shows now. And yeah, the fact that they haven't changed that too much is really good news. And yeah, of course, Season 2 bringing new content, new to my team and to my career. I'm afraid I didn't get the Pink Diamond Pippin. I couldn't quite get on the grind for that much, Derek.
I wasn't even close on my team points. And I played a lot of games on that. I can't do the grind necessary in order to get the allotted my team points to get him. I understand people that maybe that don't work full-time jobs, or they can dedicate a lot more time to the game, when they're outside of work, or maybe they don't have jobs, etc. Like, being able to get that many my team points in order to get Pink Diamond Pippin, but there was no way in hell that I was going to be able to manage to do that. But I've shown you my lineup before: Jerry West, Michael Jordan, Kawhi Leonard, Xavier McDaniel, Wilt Chamberlain. I have Shaq in there. I have Damian Lillard on the team. I have D Brown, Dana Barros, like Reggie Lewis. Like, I'm happy with my team. I don't need Pink Diamond Pippin to have fun with the game.
For sure.
So that's the good thing about this year. I'm not worried about contracts or anything like that. I can just keep those guys on my team and play the games, etc. So, but yeah, there's no way, and you couldn't have done it either. That grind is ridiculous.
Well, certainly not with 2K14 drawing me back in for a couple of games there over the past week. But shout out to Andy Corrett. I apologize if I mispronounced your name there. Listener to the NLSC podcast, joined up with the forum recently and has been playing my team. Did get Scottie Pippen, as did Rapsin4. Shout out to you as well, active in the My Team thread there, as well as the My Player builds. So there are definitely people on the grind. And look, I think that the reward system in both My Team and My Career could be better, could be a bit fairer. Some of the rewards could be more worth grinding for at the lower levels. With that being said, I do enjoy that both modes can be enjoyed if the rewards are just something there in the background. I do think there's fair criticisms to be made of them, and they could be better, but if you just want to enjoy the mode, they're not essential. So you can still enjoy it, like you said. You get a few players that you want, you play through domination, you play some of the challenges, triple threat, whatever. Just stick to what you enjoy. I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's easy to forget sometimes because those rewards, they are there. They're front and center, and you sometimes feel like you want to grind for them. But no, just have fun. Just enjoy playing the game. And if you don't want to go for rewards and grind for it, don't. You can still have fun without it, and that's important. I hope they never lose that.
I will say this, though. It is frustrating when you know that season one is only going to have certain select players. Like, you're not going to be able to get Clyde Drexler. You're not going to get Kobe Bryant, right? You're not going to get Dirk Nowitzki. Like, none of those guys were available on the auction house or anything during the first month and a half this game has been out. And I think that's the only thing that kind of stinks about it, because what they're doing is they're basically including certain players as part of like each season and whatnot. So you're going to be able to have a different selection of players once season 2 starts. At least that's the way it seems. And then maybe, Drexler will become available, right? Or maybe he will be in the, in certain pack events that they do. Or, maybe you will get to see him on the auction house. Somebody puts him there. But, I really wanted to have Dirk during the last month and a half. And there was a 0% chance for me to get Dirk. There was no way of me getting Dirk. So that's a little frustrating.
And look, not to go all negative about it, but since I have broached the criticism, some of the daily agenda items do try and push you towards modes that you may not be interested in. Like, there's a lot of daily goals that will say, I'll play a couple of limited games. Well, if you don't want to play limited, which is an online mode, then you can't get the XP for that. And I think a great idea moving forward, actually NBA 2K Playgrounds 2 did this with their challenges, their daily challenges, is that you can swap it out. You can choose to swap one each day. So it would be nice if you could swap an online challenge for an equivalent offline challenge if you're not a big online player. I think that'd be a great idea for my team moving forward, to be able to substitute, not at your choice, that there'd be an option, do this or this, and it's kind of an equally challenging agenda item depending on the mode, but not trying to push you towards modes that you don't want to play. I know they're trying to get people into a variety of modes, but if you're just not into a certain mode, then it sucks to have to try and get XP in that mode.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that from a virtual currency standpoint, because, people use obviously virtual currency to buy packs.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah.
So, like, there should be more virtual currency that you are rewarded when you play regular games. I'm sorry, but like, if you play a game, if you're playing games in Play Now or you're playing games in my NBA and whatnot, you should have more virtual currency given to you. You're spending time on the game.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that it's unfortunate that the payout is so low, because my brother and I are in the middle of a my NBA and we're 30 games into it, 12-minute quarters on Hall of Fame, played every game so far, and the 30 games hasn't produced like any virtual currency for me.
Exactly.
It's like I'm spending so much time on this game. And then on my team on Domination, I've played, I think I've played 20 games of the Domination, and then I've played a few games from the other challenges. Why was that not enough for me to get Pink Diamond Pippin?
Yes,
right?
yeah.
If I've played over 20 games in like a month or a month and a half on that mode, I just don't understand why the rewards aren't bigger for that. So no, I think it could definitely be more fair to the gamer. And I think the virtual currency payouts, because again, that's what people can use to buy packs as well, I think that they should be a lot higher.
Oh, for sure. And of course, you don't get VC in My Team games. You only get MT. So it's even worse trying to grind for VC.
Exactly.
And that's a change. I can't remember when that changed. I feel like there was, but it's been not that way for at least a few years now, that you don't get the VC for the My Team games. But I mean, this is when we talk about, and not to get into the whole microtransactions thing again, because we've obviously covered it at length, but this is one of the reasons why it's an issue, and it's all connected, and it's all done very specifically, very intentionally to push people towards those microtransactions. And of course, you can do no money spent, but it's a problem, and it is a shame. And if nothing else, the MT needs to be higher, and they also need to regulate the MT that's being bought and sold outside the game, because you've seen those auction prices, 6-7 million MT on the auction house. Nobody's getting that legitimately.
No, 100%. Like, I agree. Yeah. There's some strange things with My Team and with the mechanics of the game in relation to like My Team rewards and, your XP and the way you get virtual currency. Like, it's frustrating sometimes, but at the same time, like I said, I've already gotten my money's worth with the game. My brother and I are having a blast in our My NBA. I've had some decent fun in My Team Domination. The game has a ton of content, and that's good. So, yeah, I mean, I have my fingers crossed that stuff will get better in the future, but I doubt it.
I mean, the microtransactions, it's just not going to change. That is sadly gaming in 2022. A lot of people try to justify it, which I don't know why you're siding with corporations over your fellow gamer, but you do you. But no, the important thing is, as you say, there is fun stuff to be had with no money spent. It's harder in my career, from grinding up from 60 overall. I had the Jordan edition, so I didn't have to do that, fortunately. I can't imagine how frustrating it would be if I did, because I do refuse to pay and engage in that. And it's not a matter of, oh, you're broke, you can't afford it, as some people say. It's, I don't want to support those practices, frankly. But that being said, it has been fun so far. It should continue to be fun. We touched on it last week, that we are doing a lot of retro gaming, and we're going to be talking about NBA Live 99 in a second. 2K23 is still entertaining. We said it was feeling a bit stale last week, but, I've played it over the past week, and it reminded me, yes, I am enjoying this game, and it's going to stay in the rotation.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to keep playing our My NBA, and I'm going to continue Domination on My Team for 2K23, but I do find myself, getting that itch already, to go back and revisit older titles. Like, you and I played NBA Live 99 tonight. I really want to connect with somebody again on NBA Live 2003. I want to spend a little bit more time on NBA Street Volume 3 as well, because, my brother and I beat NBA Street Volume 2 again recently, and that's something that I wanted to revisit. So, yeah, I'm getting that itch already to go back and play some retro titles.
Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC Podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, nba-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community.
So, Andrew and I, before the show, played a game of NBA Live 99 for the PC, and he hosted, so from Australia, hosting all the way to me, who lives in the state of New Hampshire in the U.S. And we were using a 0102 mod for that game, an NLSC 0102 roster. And, man, that game is still so fun. And I've said for years that Live 2000 gets a lot of credit, and Live 2000 was excellent, and Live 2000 brought in legends, right? And it was, one of the most popular games in the NBA Live series. But NBA Live 99 is no slouch when it comes to gameplay, when it comes to presentation. In fact, I can be on the sticks on NBA Live 99 and have just as much fun as I do with NBA Live 2000. So I think Live 99 is underrated at this point.
It's nestled between NBA Live 98 and 2000. Obviously, this is how years work. But the point is, 98 was a big step forward. It's the first jump into proper 3D effects graphics, the whole Voodoo revolution with video cards on PC. So it was that first jump to actually having proper face textures and whatnot. Then 2000 just is that landmark release, Legends, as you said, the first iteration of franchise mode. So, and some great gameplay, great graphics that still hold up. It's just a phenomenal game. So it's between these two landmark releases, 98 and 2000. That's a great step between those two games. It holds up extremely well. Live 99 actually introduced multi-season play, if you remember, on PC. It doesn't have the rookie draft. It doesn't have all of the franchise mode elements, but you can play up to 10 seasons of that multi-season mode. Players do develop over time. Again, it's kind of rough not having those new rookies come in to be Rookie of the Year and whatnot after that first season. But man, there is so much of the 99 that was that stepping stone to 2000, yet it is also a great game to play in its own right. I agree, underrated is a perfect word for it.
I think what it is if you like the NBA Live 2000 gameplay, it is impossible for you not to like NBA Live 99.
A lot of similarities.
Because the gameplay is so similar, right? The takeoff points, when you're going in for a dunk and whatnot, the options for dribbling, your crossovers and your spin moves, it just feels so similar. One thing that I never liked about NBA Live 99, and my brothers and I still talk about it to this day, is the fact that Antoine Walker was the motion capture for the shooting motions that are in the game. And he does not have a pretty shot. No. And the problem is that they tried to turn Antoine Walker's shooting motion into a jump shot. Because if you know this, if you ever watched Antoine Walker play, he never had a jump shot in his entire life. He's like a set shooter. If he ever tried to take anything in the mid-range on the move, he got up about as high off the ground as I get right now. In my age, like he's not a jump shooter. They try to turn his shooting form into a jump shot. So the shooting forms are kind of ugly, and shooting doesn't feel or look that great with the Antoine Walker shooting motion games in the NBA Live series. However, the gameplay overall is really solid. Some of those dunks that you were doing, so we were the Wizards. So obviously Jordan and whatnot, Chris Whitney, Kwame Brown, Rip Hamilton. It's the 0102 Wizards. And we played against the Celtics. So we played against Antoine Walker, Paul Pierce, Kenny Anderson, Tony Battie, Eric Williams, those guys and whatnot. And some of the dunks you did on the break with Jordan were unbelievable. Like, they looked really good. A couple of them were off crossovers, and I thought they looked excellent. We were getting Jordan in the mid-range and hitting mid-range shots and everything. We were getting the computer up in the air on pump fakes and stepping in and shooting. We had some really fun defensive plays. The defense is fun to play in that game, in my opinion. We had some nice poke steals and whatnot, a couple blocks at the rim, etc. Like, the game overall was fun. And, even though you were hosting in Australia, other than some lag spikes, the game worked no worse than like 2K servers. And I find that incredibly cool. Like, and it was very good to play it.
No, I had a blast with it as well, and I wish we were mic'd up for that one because I was getting quite into it in the fourth quarter. Very excited as we were making that run. The Celtics had come back and taken the lead from us, and because, as you said, that Wizards team, outside of MJ, you've got you don't have a lot of talent. You've got some veterans at the end of their careers who weren't still as good as MJ was, even in his Wizards years. You've got some young players who some of them didn't really pan out. Kwame Brown, for example, although he had a respectably long career, and Rip Hamilton before he was that an all-star player for the Pistons in their Eastern Conference Finals and championship runs. So it was quite difficult when MJ got fatigued and went to the bench, and we should have. You're quite right. We should have turned fatigue off. As
he didn't just get fatigued, folks. Jordan didn't just get fatigued. He lost all of his bars.
Yes,
we're not talking about how maybe he went halfway down and he was still usable. We're talking about after 2 or 3 minutes of play, it felt like Jordan's bars would be gone, and you couldn't even sprint with him.
Yeah,
on the floor anymore. He would only be able to walk. So it was a huge disruptor because we were playing 5-minute quarters, and unfortunately, that's the way stamina works in that game. Like I stated, I think
pretty harsh.
Yeah, turning fatigue off was probably the way to go.
Should have done that, yeah. You pointed that out when we started playing, and yeah, we definitely should have done that. But that being said, it was still a lot of fun to play, and that's even with the patch, by the way. That is a patched version of Live 99, and I'm referring to the official patch here. So that was supposed to fix some of the fatigue issues, and it kind of did compared to the vanilla game. But yes, it's still very, very harsh. And once MJ went out of the game. And it's not like we don't know the players, Derek. We know those players very well. It's just they didn't have the talent to hang with those Celtics. Those Celtics are good.
Something. It is mind-blowing that, before Jordan's knee injury in the 01-02 season, so he got hurt right after the All-Star break. But at the All-Star break, I believe the Wizards were 3rd or 4th in the Eastern Conference.
They were, yes.
With that team, with Chris Whitney and, Jahidi White, and Popeye Jones and Tyronn Lue and Kwame Brown and all that stuff. They were top 4 in the East, and Michael Jordan's numbers before he, hurt his knee were at the same level as Tracy McGrady's that year.
Yeah.
And everybody knows how great Tracy McGrady was with the Orlando Magic in 01-02 and 02-03. And there were articles written at that time that were talking about MJ being in the MVP race. And I've shared those with you. And you remember them. And you remember the commentary all around it. In fact, Bill Walton on a recent, I was watching a broadcast, and it was during actually the All-Star game, 2002 All-Star game. And he said that Jordan was his MVP pick at that point of the season. So it just it just kind of speaks to the greatness of MJ, who was, turning 39 years old at the time, to be able to come back after all of that time off and on a incredibly poor roster and have the Wizards playing that well. It just fascinates me. I think it's excellent. And I loved watching Wizards, Jordan. I know it was weird for you.
Yes.
But I loved it.
But that 2002 Celtics team as well, that went back to the Eastern Conference Finals that year against the Nets, if I recall correctly, pretty solid squad too.
Yeah, so that was a huge year for us as Celtics fans, because they had that big comeback in the Eastern Conference Finals versus the Nets. One of the biggest playoff comebacks in NBA history and whatnot. And yeah, I love that Celtics team. Great time to be a Celtics fan. It had Antoine Walker, Paul Pierce, Kenny Anderson, Tony Battie, who's one of my favorite players of all time, Eric Williams, Walter McCarty. They were just Vitaly Potapenko.
Rodney Rogers?
Yeah. Rodney Rogers was on that team. Tony Delk. Super fun team to watch. And they're a fun video game team and whatnot. So, yeah, but I thought that game that we played was fun. I think Live 99 is a game we're going to have to revisit more, and I'd love to get some highlights up on the NLSC YouTube.
And look, I hesitate to say this because it feels like I'm patting myself on the back. But that 2002 roster for Live 99, I feel like I did a pretty good job on that one. I went back, going back and playing that today. I was kind of pleased because we've played a couple of my old rosters for other games, and I've noticed a few errors here and there that we've got to go back and fix those. There's a couple of things in that 2002 roster. Tyronn Lue's dunk package, I don't know what happened there.
There was this play during our game where Tyronn Lue just absolutely posterized. I forget who it was on the Celtics, but he posterized a big man on the fast break, and it's like, yeah, right.
Yeah, right. That being said, he is an original player from the roster update for Live 99, the official rosters. So that's me overlooking their problem, not me putting in a problem. That's my defense, and I'm sticking to it. But no, as egotistical as it may sound, I haven't played that with that roster for a long time. I used to play with my own rosters back in the day and have a good time, and people they were fairly well received. I don't think it's too egotistical to say that. But no. We went back and played that game, and with that roster, because I'm feeling both nostalgia for that era in general, and 2002 in particular as well, at the moment. So, no, I think it came out okay.
I loved it. I think that obviously some art could be added to make it even a little bit better. But when you're talking about how the action feels on the floor and how those players feel, and when they come into the game, are you looking at them as like a created player or not? No, you're not. And I think that the game feels really good with that roster.
I'd love to go back and see if we can find some art updates, because I know there are some in our download section for Live 99, and kind of do a revamped director's cut, if you will, version of that 2002 roster. I think it's also updated as of about March, so I could even just go through and make a few more updates to have end-of-season 2002 rosters. And I'd love to put that out there for our fellow retro gamers and have more sessions with it. I'd love to use that roster more often. Again, especially having that nostalgia for 2002 as I do at the moment, as I've been talking about. But yeah, what a fun session that was, as always.
As always, yeah, I loved it. One of my favorite things actually was whenever we paused it and went into like the sub screen or anything, you could hear, the top 10 music playing in the back. And it's a super classic. And of course, it made me think about this week's top 10 that we, just released for the NLSC, and just all the great highlights. And then it's just the fact that the top 10 has been going on for, 75 weeks straight now, and the community is still loving it and super interested in it.
There was a play from that game we had that I thought might be top 10 worthy. There was a couple of MJ crossovers and dunks, but also that big block that got then led to a long outlet with Rip Hamilton getting a poster dunk. I thought, I always message you and say top 10. Yeah,
that would have been a top 10. I also think the Chris Whitney 4-point play was pretty special. Yeah. In that it was actually the second play of the game. I want to say that you got a steal with MJ, and you kicked it out to me for 3, and I shot a 3 with Chris Whitney, and I got hammered, but it went in. I love that play as well. I love that the 4-point plays are so satisfying in the old lives, because you get hammered on shots sometimes, and the ball just goes sailing towards the hoop and it splashes through the net, and it's a great feeling.
No James Harden flopping on that.
No. Chris Whitney got hit, legit.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately hit, yeah.
So you made that 4-point play. You made that even with my connection being as it is, because this is how great Parsec is that you can have these viable gameplay sessions, again, connecting Australia to the US. And you also made a free throw with Rip Hamilton a bit later on that, by all accounts, according to the team meter, probably should have missed, but it rattled in, and that was so satisfying and funny.
That shouldn't have gone in. I mean, So obviously you guys know the team meter goes up and down and left and right. Well, the left-right, the ball, instead of being put in the middle, it was mostly to the right. I want to say 3/4 of the way, all the way to the right end of the team meter. And the ball bounced in. And that's some rim physics that I was talking about, though, right? Like on prior shows, it's like, I don't think that's happened to us once on like NBA 2K23. Where the ball bounced in the way it did on that free throw. So it's wild to go back and play games like NBA Live 99, etc. Games that came out over 20 years ago, and you can still say things like, maybe they did that a little bit better back then. And it's wild to think that, but it's true.
That long pass I had to, I think, Etan Thomas, to just fling it at the end of the quarter, and it almost bounced in. I
thought that was going in.
Me too,
that would have been top 10 right there. That was a 3-court 3 with Etan Thomas. Etan Thomas is a huge video game legend in our house because he broke NBA 2K11. So I think I talked about this before. So Eton Thomas went up for a dunk, and he dunked it so hard that the game crashed. So we were doing like a drafted season and whatnot. The game crashed immediately.
That's a powerful dunk.
Super powerful dunk, right? But we could never get past the third quarter ever again. The game got ruined. Like you couldn't, like any game you started, it didn't matter if it was a season, it didn't matter if it was in play now or whatever, or exhibition or whatever it was called back then and whatnot. You could not get past the third quarter. So we had to end up getting another version of NBA 2K11. Like we had to get a new game because Eton Thomas broke it.
That's crazy.
So Eton Thomas is a huge legend in our house.
Well, you always have to remember that it was that collision with Thomas that took out MJ's knee in the 2002 season.
Yeah, there you go. See, so he's in video games he can be destructive, and in real life he was also destructive.
He just breaks greatness. Eton Thomas. He's
exactly
the breaker of greatness. There's a hell of a nickname for you. But yeah, definitely a fun session. That 2002 roster. Again, not to pat myself on the back too much, but feel it came out okay. But yeah, I kind of want to go back and do a little bit more work on it, Derek, and see if we can get some faces in there and maybe some jerseys, court updates if there's some lying around in the download section, and play a few more sessions. At least a proper MJ face, because I do know there is one there for Live 99, so we can at least get a proper MJ.
Yeah, he looked good on the floor though. Last thing I'll say too about that Live 99 session is I was pretty proud of myself, especially being the client on that connection with you, with how well I was finding you in the fast breaks. I was really hitting you in the perfect spots on those fast breaks for you to be able to, like, right when you got in front of the CPU defender and whatnot, and you just had that free lane in order to throw it down and whatnot. And I think that's kind of fun, to be honest with you, is kind of trying to overcome any possible connection issues that I have and still play well. You know what I mean? And still be able to be a positive contributor to the team, when we're playing co-op and whatnot. But yeah, I really liked some of our fast breaks, especially in the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter was super exciting. We had like 3 or 4 great fast breaks in a row.
There was one in that second half where you had MJ going along the sideline, and there was an unfortunate lag spike. Again, very rarely happens with Parsec, because we can't say enough good things about Parsec, right? But there was unfortunate lag spike. My connection being the culprit, and you stepped out of bounds with MJ. I was streaking ahead with Kwame. And I was laughing because it was almost like getting the turnover was preferable to passing to Kwame Brown. So
yeah. Yeah, I had a feeling you would get a kick out of that because when I finally saw that I stepped out of bounds and everything, I looked and saw the person that was running the lane. It was MJ's favorite teammate of all time, Kwame Brown.
Yeah, that's the better option, is just turning it over than letting Kwame shoot. But no, it was a great session. Live 99 holds up so well, and I actually got another copy of Live 99 PC this past week. I saw it on eBay, doing a few more pickups over this past week, and got some good stuff coming. Shared a couple of those the arrivals already on Twitter, including the Live 99 PC, the Black Diamond re-release, which came out in 1999, a little bit after that first release, and it was actually packaged with the official patch. So it actually adds, if you install that first official patch and get the rookies and updated 99 season rosters. Of course, Live 99 PC came out while the lockout was still in effect, so it couldn't have the new players. It comes with final 1998 season rosters by default, but that re-release, that Black Diamond re-release, has the patch included, and and it was pretty cheap. I think about $8 for that one after an auction. And what a fun pickup for something like that. I mean, I have Live 99, obviously, and the official patch is still there in our download section, so I didn't need it for that. But what a cool collectible, Derek.
I love the screenshot you shared of it. I was actually happier to see that you picked up Arch Rivals.
Oh, for NES, yes.
For NES, because, by the way, if it wasn't for the cutscenes on that, the ridiculous cutscenes after every single that game would be something I'd love to revisit with you multiple times, because I actually really like Arch Rivals.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I know you're punching people in the face. Like that's the whole goal is to punch people in the face and score buckets. That's basically it. Your defense, punch people, and then you score buckets. Like I get it, but it's still fun. And somebody mentioned Arch Rivals to me in DM. We were talking about classic basketball games and whatnot. And really, Arch Rivals was kind of like NBA Jam before NBA Jam.
Oh yeah.
In the way that it was 2-on-2 full court, and it was arcade action. You're not punching people in Jam, but the concept is still similar and whatnot. So I loved seeing that you picked that up because I like revisiting Arch Rivals. I think it's a fun game.
I've got the arcade version as part of Midway Arcade Treasures, the collection they have with the officially released emulated version of the arcade release. And that's the one that I covered when I did it for Way Back Wednesday. But the NES version is definitely, not surprisingly, a weaker version of it. But I was actually thinking of suggesting that we revisit it, because I did want to revisit one of the games that I picked up this past week when I reached out to you before we started recording and said, hey, do you want to play? Do you have time to play? And I was originally going to suggest Arch Rivals, but you brought it up. The exact point, what turned me off it for a fun session before we started recording, was the cutscenes. And they're a novelty the first couple of times, but after every single basket, it's a bit much.
What were they thinking with that?
Yeah.
Like, that's just, I don't understand that design decision at all. I also want to point something out. You were talking about how the NES version of Arch Rivals is a little bit inferior to, say, like the arcade version, right? That seems to be a theme. And I want to bring up a game that I love, like absolutely love, one of my favorite games of all time, Contra for NES. Absolutely love Contra. But my brother and I beat that game, and I posted it on my YouTube. My brother and I beat that game in 12 minutes without dying. Like, the game overall is pretty easy, in my opinion. Like, I always thought Contra for the NES was easy. It's like a dumbed down version of the arcade version. And the arcade version is wildly difficult. It is incredibly hard. There's no way you're beating that without dying, like multiple times. And there's more bad guys. There's more complicated enemies, etc. So like that just seems like the theme. And I think one of the reasons is because when you're talking about like arcade versions of these games, they want them to be as hard as they can because people are paying money at the arcades.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's the whole point. But it is unfortunate that, when you get these games, converted over to like a home console and whatnot, that they lose some of the specialness that they had, I would say, from the arcade version.
And of course, the arcade machines did have more power than the home consoles, the 8-bit and 16-bit consoles at the time. You look at Mortal Kombat in the arcade compared to the Super Nintendo port, which of course infamously removed all the blood and some of the fatalities, and the Genesis version was had the blood, but was still inferior to the arcade. The PC release was pretty arcade accurate. So, and there's been more home ports for Xbox Live and for PC on Steam. They've got the arcade ports that are very faithful. But certainly, yeah, the 8-bit and 16-bit eras, if you got an arcade port, it was definitely inferior. I mean, NBA Jam for Super Nintendo, I think, holds up extremely well. Actually, that's another one I've got on the way, NBA Jam Tournament Edition for a PlayStation 1. I found a pretty good copy, a pretty affordable copy of that. And this one I know will excite you, Derek, is on the way. I was going to keep it a secret, but I want to put it out there because I want to hear your reaction to it. I got a complete in-box Jordan vs. Bird for PC.
For PC. So I've never. So you know how I feel about Jordan versus Bird.
Oh yeah.
So much nostalgia for it. Second basketball video game I ever played, but I never played the PC version in my life.
Well, that's what we have to do that now.
Yeah. So now we're gonna have to do that, and that is super exciting for me. I'm like actually pumped about this. I want to see what it looks like and how it feels, and whatnot. I grew up with the NES version of Jordan versus Bird, and I can hear the music in my head right now, and I love it. Yeah, we're going to have to play that. You know what one of my new goals is? To get Virtua NBA. Like, I want to get... I don't know if people know what that is. Virtua NBA is for, I believe it's Sega Naomi, is the console. And it's like, you actually have to get, like, a chip and the console. So, like, the Virtua NBA chip and the console to be able to play it. and whatnot. But the footage I've seen on this game, it looks absolutely unbelievable. So yeah, the game is pure like late 90s, say like late 90s, early 2000s awesomeness. And it looks like the game was actually released for the console for Sega Naomi in January of 2000. So yeah, I want to get my hands on that, and that's the next big thing for my collection.
That is awesome, and Sega made many great games. I was a Nintendo fanboy growing up in the 90s, but I have to give it up for Sega for the games they made, especially the ones that originated in the arcade. Some tremendous titles with the Virtua line there, from racing to basketball. Obviously, another game that I have on the way, Derek, is one that you have: NBA Starting 5 2005 for PS2.
I love that you ordered that. Did you get excited when you saw that I picked it up?
I did, yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's just the fact that this game had classic teams that blows me away. It had like it's the 81, 82 76ers, actually, not the 82, 83 that won the title, but it's 81, 82. It has like the 83, 84 Celtics in there, the 86, 87 Lakers. It has the, I want to say 66, 67 76ers, with Wilt Chamberlain and whatnot. Like, it is too cool. That game came out in 2004, right? To have classic teams and whatnot, and have the rosters be full and everything. It's really cool, and the gameplay looks pretty good too. Like it's rough on the sticks overall, but the graphics look really good for PS2.
I mean, I think it's still fun to revisit today games like that. But yeah, certainly they didn't hold up to the 2Ks and the Lives of the time. But again, doing something that they didn't do, having those retro teams long before 2K was doing it.
Yeah, and people forget that. That people forget that a lot of the things that they're seeing in the now games, they've been done before, and some things that were done before are not even in the new games. For example, All-Star Weekend, right? So yeah, I mean, I feel like we were spoiled, to be honest with you, with all the different options we had in the basketball gaming space growing up, and the fact that every year we had something new to look forward to, something innovative that these companies were doing with their games, and it just made every year's release exciting.
Absolutely, and as you said, we've talked about that before, wistfully sometimes, that we had those choices on the market, and some great games that are still fun to revisit today. A couple of others that I have on the way, PC versions of NBA Jam Extreme and NBA Hangtime. I do have those on other platforms. I still have my original copy of Hangtime for N64, but yeah, I found the PC versions on there for affordable prices, and yeah, they're on the way too.
Arcade fun, Andrew.
That's right.
How much fun did we have with the NBA Jam on Fire Edition tournament? I know that you weren't able to play in it and whatnot, but how much fun did the community have in that tournament playing that game and competing and whatnot? Arcade basketball games can provide endless fun. NBA Showtime, NBA on NBC, even like NBA Playgrounds. My brother and I had a blast with it. Playgrounds and 2K Playgrounds too. The NBA Hangtime games, NBA Jam Tournament Edition, NBA Jam on Fire Edition, NBA Street Volume 2. Like, there are so many great arcade and street basketball games that have been made, in the past. It is absolutely wild, and I've said this on so many shows before, it is absolutely wild that we have no games coming out in those spaces today.
It is.
It's so disappointing. It's sad.
It feels like people don't want to compete with 2K, but an arcade game, a full-blown arcade game, is not competing with 2K. That's an alternative, and that, again, that was the strength of basketball games back in the days. You had alternatives that did things differently in the sim space, or completely the other direction in the arcade space, that you would have these options. And I've talked about it before playing with my cousin, and you've talked about it before playing with your brothers, that when you felt like, okay, I want a bit of a break from that more realistic sim style, let's jump on the sticks with an arcade game. And you and I still feel that today playing on Parsec.
Yeah, I have had so much fun playing Jam on Fire Edition with you, through Road Trip. And my brother and I, like I stated previously, played NBA Street Volume 2 recently. We beat all 30 teams together And so, yeah, played co-op the whole time. And it was an absolute blast. I still need to get that tournament going on Street Volume 2 because I think the community would love that. And people who, tune into the NLSC YouTube would just love to see that footage and whatnot. But yeah, arcade basketball gaming is a lost art. And it's too bad. But luckily, you and I have huge collections. And
Indeed.
we can revisit these games all the time.
And I'm also getting Fox Sports NBA Basketball 2000 for PS1. Of course, I have it on PC. We shared footage of us playing that with Jason Williams throwing down dunks as he used to do all the time, just like Tyronn Lue. And also the PS2 versions of NBA 2K6 through NBA 2K11. I have those on 360 and PS3 where applicable. But yeah, I wanted to check out the PS2 generation of those games. I had played a little with them back in the day and never really got into them. But of course, now having the collection, saw them for a few bucks on eBay, so just picking up that to round out the collection. And of course, NBA 2K11, one of the last PS2 releases in the series, 2K12 being the final one, did manage to squeeze some of that MJ content into the PS2 version. And kind of a forgotten generation of games that it was still being released on PS2 as our community was either playing the 360 PS3 or mostly in our community PC version. But this forgotten generation of games, it's the same with the early 2000s NBA Lives, Derek. I feel that there's some interesting stuff in those games. They kept the three-point shootout in Live 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003 for PS1. So there's things that they kept in those old versions that make them kind of interesting to revisit, and they were still trying to give people on those old generations, the last generation, something fun to have because they didn't have all of the bells and whistles of the what was then the current gen version. So yeah, I'll have to try and see if I can pick up 2K12 as well at some point. That 2K12 being the last on the PS2 release, the last PS2 release for NBA 2K, but yeah, 2K11 still not having the full Jordan challenge, but still having that those retro teams in there.
Well, first off, how nutty are we for having the PC and PlayStation versions of Fox Sports Basketball?
Yeah.
2000. I mean, you know what? It is kind of fun to put on from time to time, and it's a unique gameplay experience, if you want to call it that. And the presentation is amazing, like the Fox Sportsnet music, etc. So there are reasons to put that on. And I thought we had a really fun session on it when we were using the Kings and Jason Williams and Chris Webber and Young Peja and whatnot. But yeah, NBA 2K6 for PS2 is very underrated. I own the PS2 version and I own the 360 version. And there's a lot of similarities with the gameplay between those two versions. And they really made the presentation almost identical in the PS2 version to the 360 version, like all the menus, the team select screens, all of that stuff. Like, you can tell they worked incredibly hard to make those games as close to each other as possible in quality. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say about NBA 2K6 PS2 when you revisit it and whatnot, because I think it's actually a very strong title.
Yeah, 2K6 I think might have actually been the first 2K I played back in the day, picking it up and just seeing what it was all about, because people were talking about, this game is rivaling Live, and of course I was playing on PC, but I did have the PS2 to check it out, and remember being a bit unimpressed. But of course, again coming from that Live style and that Live style gameplay, and not having the right stick dribbling and things like that threw me. But I think I would enjoy 2K6 more today, because when I was briefly playing 2K8 after I got it, and just to make sure that the copy was working fine and everything, I enjoyed it a lot more because I'm used to that 2K style now, and I know that it had those games didn't have the right stick dribbling, but there's a lot of other familiarity with some of the controls and just that approach to gameplay that 2K has, that 2K style as opposed to the Live style. I played that quick game of 2K8 and really enjoyed it. So I think I will enjoy those PS2 games, and also the 360 versions as well. I want to spend more time with from 2K from that era. They're games that I overlooked. I'd love to play them just for my own enjoyment, Derek, but also for Wayback Wednesday as well. So I'll definitely be covering those games moving forward.
I love NBA 2K8 for Xbox 360. Absolutely love it. I've shared highlights on my YouTube channel, but also on my Twitter at D43G and whatnot of 2K8. And man, sometimes the visuals are flooring. Like, they're really, really good from the broadcast camera angle and whatnot. And from any of like the zoomed out cameras, like the action looks great. Some of the animations look great. The dunks are loud. Shooting is exceptionally fun in that game. The presentation is top notch. Like, I love NBA 2K8 for the 360, and I'd like to connect that, on that with you at some point. And in fact, I have it for 360, I have it for PS2, and I have it for PS3. We could connect with me using the PS3 emulator, and it should work beautifully for you.
I was going to say, which game did we connect on? It was 2K7 with Keon Dueling, the great Keon Dueling.
Yeah, we had a blast.
That was a fun game.
Yeah, Andrew and I played NBA 2K7 for the PS3, and we played that over Parsec, and I was using the emulator and whatnot and hosting, and we had an absolute blast on that game. Andrew was dominating with Keon Dueling, as Q from the forums, QB1120 would tell you, the legend of Keon Dueling. Like, he predicted Andrew would do that with him. And I think I lit you up for almost 30 points with TJ Ford in, low minute quarters and whatnot. But yeah, we had a blast playing NBA 2K7. So if we had fun playing NBA 2K7, I know that you'll love 2K8.
Oh, I'm sure I will, just from my short time playing the PS2 version the other day. And I also had to put it out there that when you're not good at a game, if you're used to a style of game like I was with NBA Live, trying to then master 2K right out of the box and not doing a good job because it does have a different feel and a different control scheme at the time, then you're not doing the things that are exciting or successful on the court. And I think it really does contribute to this isn't as good as everyone says, or this isn't good or whatever. And you kind of dismiss it because you're not winning, you're not beating the game, and you're kind of very biased in that respect. But now that I'm more used to the 2K style of gameplay and have really gotten used to that and know how to beat the game moving forward, it doesn't feel as foreign to me now. So I can actually have success, and I was making some nice plays in that playtest session, and that really does change your whole perspective of the game.
Of course. I mean, what game, if you're constantly losing, are you going to want to pick up that game?
Of course
not. Are you
going
to want to play that game? Are you going to want to show that to a friend? Are you going to say, hey, man, let's get together and play this game that I think I suck at?
Let's get together and be frustrated, yeah. Right,
exactly. Let's be frustrated together and have a terrible time. I think it obviously changes your perspective.
That sounds like us playing Live 07 360, actually.
You know what's funny, though, is we actually made that fun.
Yeah.
Because we don't suck at the game.
No.
Live 07
the
has
game
terrible
sucks at itself, but still.
Yeah, the game sucks itself. But, we don't suck at the game. We were pulling off, a lot of, basketball plays. They just look terrible.
Yeah.
Because the game's animations are absolutely terrible. But, we were getting in the high post and facing up and making a quick move to the hoop. We were backing in and shooting hook shots or spinning to the hoop, and making moves. We were, kicking it out to an open shooter. We were making basketball plays, and it was fun. What was even more fun was that we were able to laugh about it about the terrible animations. But yeah, there's a huge difference between the game just not being a great game and then you just sucking at a game that's actually not that bad.
Absolutely. Now, I do have to ask, as we wrap up here with the tales of collecting and whatnot, I sent you a link, an eBay link, for a listing for not just Kid Sports Basketball, but the whole Kid Sports range for PC, like a compilation. That was about $5, I think, or $5 Australian. Are you tempted at all?
Oh, I'll get it. Oh, no, I need to add that to the collection. No, I'm absolutely going to buy it. And I think what people need to understand is that Andrew and I are, we're collectors, but we also like putting on the games. So we're not just, having these games sit on a bookshelf, right?
Exactly.
So, if I or, just sitting on the computer not being touched, etc. If I get a game, you bet I'm putting it on at some point. So if I end up ordering Kid Sports Basketball, which I will because I need it in my collection, I want to have every basketball game ever made, I will put it in and play it, and you will see footage of it. Because that's just the way I am. And I think you're the same way. We don't collect just to collect. We want to put the games on.
And that, unfortunately, the PS2 release was European only, PAL region only, which you could still get and play on the emulator, of course. But there is that PC version that, the modding possibilities for Ginger Clay. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, that can't be that hard to mod. Like, it'd be funny. Maybe we could put together like Jordan, Magic, and Bird and do like a dream team scenario.
Wow.
Or something like that. That would be, I know. Wow is right. How fun would that be?
That's so ridiculous, and somehow we need to find a way to do it.
Exactly. Hey, if you find a way to like edit the art files on Kid Sports Basketball, like if you can, like, and maybe I'll do it. Maybe if I get the PC version, I'll see if I can like figure out how to mod faces. Because if I could do that, and I could just throw Jordan's face and Magic's face and Bird's face on like the game's models, that would be good enough. And we would have to share that footage because we would have fun with that.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I do want to end with a cautionary tale, though, Derek, from my collecting. Obviously got some good stuff already. There's more stuff on the way as well, but I didn't read one of the listings properly. I thought I'd got NBA In The Zone 2000 for PS1, PAL version of course, at a really good price, a fantastic price, and then it arrived, and it was just the manual. And I thought, oh, have they just sent me the manual? Am I going to have to complain about this and get them to send it? I went back to the listing, and yes, that listing, I had not read it properly. It was just for the instruction manual for NBA In The Zone 2000 for PS1. So I just want to put it out there. When you are collecting on eBay, rookie mistake from somebody who's not an eBay rookie, read the listing very, very carefully. Because, again, I've had a lot of experience buying off eBay, but even I got lazy there and didn't read it properly and just saw NBA In The Zone 2000 PS1 PAL and didn't read the, quite clearly, in capital letters, instruction manual only. So, what a blunder on my part. But if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. That's egotistical. But no, again, I'm very experienced with eBay, and yet I still made that mistake. So, another learning experience for me after all this time. If you are collecting, be very careful about those listings. Make sure it is the right version for the console that you own, when there's a regional lock on the console, when there's region codes and whatnot. And, of course, anything like that as far as being just the box or just the manual or whatever. Always read the listing, Derek. And so that was certainly a wake-up call for me to not be so cavalier about that and remind me that, no, I do make mistakes, clearly.
That's all right. The first time that I ordered NBA Inside Drive 2002 for Xbox, it was listed as excellent condition, and I was excited because it was at a good price, and I ended up getting it in the mail, super excited to open it like a kid on Christmas Day, and I opened it up and there was no disc in it. And I looked back, I'm like, did I just order the box and the manual only? And no, they just didn't include the disc.
Oof. Yeah.
And so I ended up having to get Inside Drive 2002 again. So I had to order it again. And it was a little bit more expensive the second time around, but I got it in good condition and the disc was in there. But yeah, you hate to have stuff like that happen. I've ordered off of eBay and Amazon. I've ordered so many different games, and 99.9% of the time, they were honest, right? It was in good condition. If they said it was in good condition, it was in excellent condition. If they said it was in excellent condition, and the game came with it, the game works, all of that stuff. But every now and then you'll have that one misstep.
But yes, that's my cautionary tale for the week. If you are a collector, be savvy, be very observant. Be more observant than I was in that particular instance. Everything else is fine, but yes, I thought I spied a good deal, and it is if you just want the manual to complete a complete in box copy of the game. But if you actually want that game, I do have it for N64, but I wanted the PS1 version as well. I'll need to keep looking though for that one.
You better have read that manual, Andrew. If you literally spent money to just have the manual of NBA In The Zone 2000 sent to you, you better have read that front to back or framed it or something. Like that's you got to get some use out of that.
Well, it's in really good condition. Worst case scenario, I might just put it back up on eBay and see if I can sell it too. But, nevertheless. But looking forward to getting those in the post and playing them and writing about them for Wayback Wednesday. Probably doing some video features on at least some of them. I'd like to do some more video content as you spearheading the YouTube content these days. But and of course connecting with you on Parsec to play them.
Yeah. more sessions on Parsec are definitely needed. Ken and I, still to 33, are actually going to play the next game on our NBA 2K19 season tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time. Why do you need to know the time? I don't know, but it made it sound more legit and exciting for me to put that on there. To say that, excuse me. But I'm still playing that season with him. I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to connect with more people, from the NLSC Discord and, more people from the NLSC community. So, Parsec is still amazing and we're still using it.
With that being said, that has brought us to the end of this week's show. As always, we thank you for tuning in and invite you to join us again next week, either on the NLSC, NLSlive.com, of course, our YouTube channel, or your podcast app of choice. In the meantime, please connect with us on social media. That's where you can get in touch with us and also stay up to date with all of our content. To that end, Derek, what are your socials?
You can find me on Twitter, where I'm the most active, at D43G and at D4384. I'm on YouTube, D43, on the NLSC as a team member, D43, and I'm on TikTok, thanks to Nate and Roger telling me it was a great idea. And my handle over there is D43.
I am Andrew in our forum, and Andrew NLSC on Twitter. The NLSC is on Twitter and Facebook at the NLSC. Our Instagram is NLSC Basketball. Our aforementioned YouTube channel is youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. And of course, keep it locked to the NLSC itself, NBA-Live.com, for everything we do for basketball video games. So, thank you once again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.